Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Boat Buyer Secret Weapon Live. I'm going to get situated here. We did a little test run last night, so I think we've got our lighting better. My background is a little bit off, but that'll be okay. All right. So I wanted to, I appreciate you coming, and I'm sure there'll be some folks joining. I did a test run last night and went pretty well. So here's the way I'm looking to do this. I've got a little bit of information I want to talk about from a video that I'm working on right now. Also, let you know about a program that we're releasing. If you haven't heard about it, the U.S. Boat Expo, which is at usboatexpo.com, which I meant to put a link, usboatexpo.com. We had some great people that participated in that with us, that shared their time and their knowledge. So if you're a boater, Skylar, we got that lighting taken care of. I know my window here is makes a big difference, but we had some great people that contributed their knowledge and insight in that expo. I interviewed them for 20 to 60 minutes, depending on who it was. We talked with certified marine technicians. We talked with the president and of CETO and the president of the CETO Foundation on boater safety. We interviewed experienced boaters, talked to several different people in the industry that even if you're not looking at buying a boat, I think there were interesting conversations, and there'll be something in there you'll find valuable. Talked with the vice president at Boat Setter. They do peer-to-peer boat rentals, and had a great some great conversations there. Talked with an insurance guy about boat insurance, and again, just some valuable information. You can get a free pass at usboatexpo.com. And but I wanted to talk about the video that I'm putting together right now. This is one thing I didn't do last night, was see if I could screen share. Okay, there we go. Internet froze up there. But I had some comments on the YouTube channel from my Stern Drive video. A lady that was saying that bow riders are very, very unsafe, and that there's a manufacturing defect. And she cited some articles. She cited the U.S. Coast Guard boating statistics for accidents and issues. And so I dove into it. I'm like, okay, I've been around boating for 40 years, and I've always been a bow rider boater. And so I dug into those numbers a little bit, and I addressed her on the comments. And you can go see that if you watch the problem with Stern Drive videos. And she kept going on, and some valid points. I disagree with the interpretation of the data that was referenced in the article. And so I'm putting that video together. But I also, with this live, I just wanted to offer the opportunity for you to ask any questions that you have. Last night, I went on about 10 o'clock Eastern time, and we had, between 12 and 15 people on at one time, which was kind of shocking to me. I was just testing out the technology, but be happy to answer any questions. So if you've got a question, go ahead and just type it in the chat, and I will answer it. If you've got suggestions for videos, if you have suggestions for the channel, you'll see this microphone in one of my videos. Probably 3 months ago, people were saying, hey, your audio is awful. So I invested in a better audio setup, and in trying to improve the quality of the delivery, and keeping the content that's valuable, content that is not biased. I'm not trying to sell anybody a boat. I have no boats to sell. I used to sell boats, and was fairly successful at it in my area. However, it's not what I do right now. And this channel is just a straight education channel. I do make some money off of the YouTube ads, and some of the other services that I offer, the Magic Money Saving Method, the First Time Boat Buyers Academy. But that's just, for adding extra value. I don't take money from manufacturers, boat manufacturers, engine manufacturers that support this channel, so I can keep the information unbiased. It's something I think is important. So if you've got a question, I know we've got a few folks that were here here last night. Zach, I appreciate you. And yes, I just got approved hitting 10,000 subscribers. I got approved for merchandise, so I can do merchandise now. Now I've got to take Zach's idea for his shirt and get him some royalty checks. So we're working on that. But just go ahead and make a comment. Let me know where you guys are listening in from. And like I said, if you've got questions, if you've got comments, go ahead and hit me. But I'll get back to as I'm creating this video, which will come out probably in the next week or so, on is boating dangerous? You know, when you think about it, it is. It actually is a pretty dangerous hobby that we've chosen if you're dumb, if you don't pay attention, if you don't use the right things, if you don't, if you're not paying attention to safety, if you don't get trained, if you don't know what the hell you're doing, yeah, boating can be dangerous. And that's why we're 600 and some fatalities last year. But if you do the smart things, if you listen to the advice on this channel and some of the other channels that are out there, there's a ton of great boating channels. And even if you just watch the haul over inlet videos, if you've watched those, down in outside Miami, if you watch those videos, you can see the dumb things that people do on boats. And if you use some common sense, hey, thanks for coming up in Canada, SubGod123. And from DC, welcome. We had some comments from UK on a couple of videos in Australia. The channel is starting to go international, which is kind of fun. But when you look at the numbers from the boating safety, it's all about, are you prepared properly? Are you doing the right things? Do you know how to run your boat properly? And are you running your boat properly for the conditions? So, hey, Skylar, welcome from the Great Lakes. And again, the boating safety, I was working on that video. This isn't about boating safety. This is about whatever questions that you guys have as you're coming on. So if you have a question, a comment, anything that you want to chat about, be happy to do that. And, let's see, what other topics are on my list here? Talking about, this is a good one. I'm working on kind of a comparison of boat manufacturers. So this past couple of months, I've gone to whatever boat shows were around in the area. I spent probably, 20 hours at different boat shows in the past couple of months, spent a whole day there going over as many boats as I could. The couple of things that stuck out for those people that are looking at brand new boats, I looked at probably 50 different pontoons, which was probably 25 or so manufacturers. I looked at probably another 50 center consoles, which was probably 20, maybe 25 manufacturers there as well. Maybe not quite as many. Here's what I found is there's a distinct level of boat that's being made right now. They're all good. There are some that are better. And there are some that are by far the best and overbuilt, you may say, for some situations. If you're going offshore on the center consoles, hey, I want a boat that's overbuilt. I want a boat that's gonna make sure it gets me and my family and my friends home. But it was really interesting to go through and to research those boats. And I had my clipboard. I did videos and photos of each. And those, over time, those videos will be coming out as I get time to put them together. But what I discovered was, the OMC. Yes. I'm not sure what a GREW is, SubGod. GREW 245 last year. I'm not sure what that is. Maybe that's a Canadian boat. And inside your, oh, that's right. I got you, Zach. Now I remember. We had that conversation that I hope your wife was on board with the boat, and she's getting a little more excited. But back to my point, the components that I saw on the pontoons and the center consoles, there were just big buckets where they used the same exact hardware. You looked at you, you looked at the cleats, you looked at the hinges, you looked at the way they were putting the boats together, and Sportsman, Key West, kind of those mid-tier Robalo, those type of boats, they were they were doing the same thing. You saw Edgewater and Whaler and Grady, they stepped it up another notch, and their construction was better. But even the trophy, even the cheapest boats that were on the floor were good quality boats. Things are going to break. They weren't perfect by any means. And you could see where they cut corners, but it wasn't areas where they cut corners 20 years ago where the transom's going to rot out and you're going to have a catastrophic event. I thought that was really interesting. I saw the same thing on the pontoons as well. Let's see. It looks like we got a couple questions. Looking to get a bigger boat this year. Deck boat, bow rider, 24, 26 foot. Been considering Sea Ray Sundeck, Chaparral, and other ones. Are you, Orlando Carp, are you looking brand new or are you looking used? Travis, hey, Travis, throw the question out there. There's no stupid questions, man. I sold boats for 5 or 6 years, and I've heard every question that you could think of. So go ahead and throw it out there, and no judgment at all. Okay, so Orlando C, if you're looking used and you're looking deck boat, are you freshwater or saltwater? I'll tell you, I sold Sea Ray when I was selling. I was at a dealership that had Sea Ray for a number of years. So you're freshwater, you're looking deck boat. The top of the line in that category is what you're looking at. Sea Ray, Chaparral. As you get to the mid tier in the deck boat line, depending on what your price range is, let's say 2010 to 2014, you said. Crown Line did a pretty good deck boat in those years. It's a step down, I would say, quality wise. But here's the great thing around mid 55,000. Here's the great thing about a used boat. If it was a quality issue with the manufacturer, you're going to see it in your inspection. Now, I'm not just saying a quick gloss over it in 5 minutes. When I'm buying a used boat, I helped my friend buy a 23-foot Chaparral a couple months ago, and when I went through it was spending an hour going through the boat, feeling up around the rub rail. We talk about it in the First Time Boat Buyer Academy, which you can check out at usboatexpo.com/37. And I go through, here's how I inspect a boat. But what you want to do is you want to look under the ski lockers. You want to check in the engine compartment and look around everywhere, because in that situation, yes, it's a little bit about the quality of the boat, but you're going to tell because the Bayliner is going to have, and the Stingray or the Tahoe, they're going to show themselves that they are where they broke, where they're cheaply built, and you're just going to be able to tell that. Compared to that mid-level, a Hurricane or a Crown Line, or the upper level with the Chaparral or the Sea Ray, when you start going through the boat, you're going to be able to tell the quality. What's more important, though, is how well they took care of it. So getting service records, asking questions about when's the last time you changed the oil, when's the last time you changed the impeller, the gear lube, how old's the battery, when's the last time the drive was pulled, has it ever been in salt water, which if you're up on the Potomac, it may be something that you need to ask those questions. And I've even heard stories of from Caroline Mantell at Boat History Report. They've seen reports of boats go from hurricane boats from Florida go up into Colorado and Michigan because they're getting them into freshwater markets where people aren't thinking saltwater damage, people aren't thinking hurricane damage, and people are selling these boats in areas that is kind of sticking it to the new buyer because they don't know what to look for. So just make sure you go through it completely. On a boat that new, I would still get compression pulled on the engine. I would still pull that drive, check those bellows, make sure that that boat hasn't been left in the water, and if it has, that the anodes are good, the drive is good, not corroded, and check all those things, and then do Orlando Sea, do a complete demo sea trial. Don't just take it out for 5 minutes and say, "Wee, that's a nice boat." Go put it through its paces. Do some wide open throttle. Make sure you hit some bumps. And how does it sound? Is it rattling? Is there something that's shaking loose? Come back quick on the throttle. What happens? Take off again. Turn it off in the middle of, well, maybe not in the middle of the water, at the dock, turn it off and start it up again. Go through some different routine or some different processes to see how the boat's going to perform. That would be my best advice to you. And ask a lot of questions of the seller. If it's a dealer, they should have inspected the boat. If it's a private individual, they should know the answers and maybe even have receipts. So, okay. Hopefully that answers your question, Orlando. You might want to check out that First Time Boat Buyers Academy. I was looking at a Florida boat. Yeah, saltwater boat. If you look at the NADA guides, it says there's a little at the very front page of the book. It says saltwater use deduct 15. I think it's 15% from the average retail value for a saltwater boat. It's just it has a rougher life. Orlando, check out my stern drive. The problem with stern drives, the risers and manifolds. There's extra maintenance that needs to be done on saltwater that could catch you off guard. In the U.S. Boat Expo, my brother went down to Fort Lauderdale and bought a 26-foot crown line. And he'd been a boater for a long time, knew a lot about boats, and he bought a saltwater boat, and it turned out to be okay, but it was by no means an easy experience, and they sort of lucked out with being able to fix some of the things that were saltwater wrong with it. Okay, so Travis, looking to buy my first boat, live in Wilmington, North Carolina, want a boat I can use on the river, intercoastal waterway, little offshore, half mile, like used. Looked at a tri-hull yesterday, huge soft spot. Had a huge soft spots in the decent boats are almost as expensive. Yes. Okay. So a couple of things on the soft spot. If that floor is soft, if that transom is soft, taking off some sweet jumps. If that floor is soft, if the transom is soft, there's bigger issues structurally with the boat. That transom's going to likely fail on you. If you're not looking for a project boat, Travis, I would stay away from anything that has a soft floor. And again, in the First Time Boat Buyer Academy, I show you how to check for the soft thing. If you check out my how to buy a used center console or how to buy a used bow rider or a deck boat, I go through a lot of this in pretty good detail about what to check, how to check it. And you can watch a lot of videos on the channel as well. But if you're not looking for a project boat where I'm talking, pulling out the floors, getting into fiberglassing, putting in new stringers, which are the structural components. Think of it like the beams of your house. Those stringers, when they start getting wet, and if you have a soft spot on the floor, that's because the floor's plywood that's got water in it, started to rot. That rot almost certainly has gotten into the stringers, and now the structure of the boat is compromised, and it's only going to get worse and worse. You're really talking about a real fix is pulling out that whole floor, reglassing in the stringers, reglassing in a deck, remounting the chairs, and all of the furniture. And it is a big, long, messy, nasty, dirty project. The cheap fix is go get a sheet of marine grade plywood and throw it over there and run the boat till it's worthless. So it depends on the price point that you're looking at. Travis, you didn't really say, but my suggestion to you is make sure that the boat itself is solid, the floor, the transom, inspect the hull. You take a screwdriver and you tap on the hull, and I don't know if you can hear this or not. You'll tap on it like that, and you'll hear a different sound when you hit. It's going to be a nice bouncing back, a nice ping, ping, ping sound when you're hitting that transom, and it's solid. And it's going to be a dead kind of a thud sound because of all that water in there when you hit a spot that's wet. So as you're checking other boats, the other thing is, if you're looking for that, probably in your area, Travis, a center console, maybe a dual console. I'm not sure what your budget is, but but some Key West is let's see, looking for something I can buy, register. But okay, yeah. So if you're looking to just get on the water right away, 10 to 15,000, Travis. My gut tells me, and Travis, go ahead and if you want, sign up for the podcast. If you go to boatbuyerssecretweapon.com/guest, be happy to have you on as a podcast guest, and we'll talk through it all. But a couple of things that come to mind. There's a lot more questions I need to ask to make sure this is right advice. But a couple of things that come to mind are a center console or a dual console with an outboard. You're going to be in saltwater, so I like the outboard for you. If you're going a half mile offshore, I don't know how many people, but maybe a 17 to 20 foot is going to keep you in that price range on a trailer, and you can get something that's nice. That's 10 grand. I mean, this market right now is kind of tough, but if you're patient and you've got the money, you know what you're looking for, and then you inspect it really well, you can find a boat that's gonna suit your needs. So check that out. Check out that podcast, boatbuyerssecretweapon.com/guest. Just a sign up form, and it'll notify me, and we'll get on the phone and just have a conversation. It goes on Apple and Spotify and all over for podcasts, but we can keep you anonymous. So, all right. So let's see. Anybody else have any questions out there? Any comments? Any suggestions? We've already been going. What type and length of boat would you get for a family of 4, 2 young kids, inland, trailered, less than 5 miles? There's if you're looking with 4 people, I'll tell you. I grew up, the waters were a little bit different, but I grew up and our first boat was a 16-foot Larson tri-hull with a 85 Mercury on it. It was a early 70s Larson. And it was, as a kid, I thought it was perfect. We moved up to an 18-footer. And for the lakes we boated on in the Midwest, and I'm talking like 100-acre lakes. It wasn't very big. Once a year, we would take it down to the Lake of the Ozarks for a week. But that was, 40 years ago when Lake of the Ozarks was not the Lake of the Ozarks of today. So depending on, Skylar, depending on exactly what bodies of water, I mean, you can have a great time on an 18-foot bow rider, in that price range, 10 to 15,000. If you look at an older Sea Ray or kind of a mid-tier 5 to 20 foot lakes. Yeah. I mean, on a lake I'm making the assumption that lake is a little bit smaller at those depths. A Hurricane, a Bayliner, a Stingray, any of those bow riders, I think would be great. 18 foot, I think, is about as small as you would want to go with a family of 4. Assuming that at some point your 2 young kids, not knowing exactly how old they are. How old are they, Skylar? they're probably going to want to bring a friend along at some point if that's part of your boating style is bringing others. For me, I like going just with my kids, but my kids are 7 and 9, almost 10, and I can see that this year is my oldest one's going to want to bring her friends along. It kind of depends. Yeah, 7 and 4. So right now you're good. An 18-footer, I think, is going to be plenty. Maybe going up to 20, maybe 21. But I think 18 feet is going to be plenty for you right now. Run that for a couple of years, and then you'll know this is what we enjoy doing. This is how we boat, and then you can make that step up, a little bit larger investment. And as long as you buy the boat and you buy a solid boat and you maintain it, maybe even improve it a little bit with some elbow grease and some work on it, you're going to be able to move into the next boat and have a great example. Yeah, 150 acre. Yeah, Ray Bayliner, 4 winds. And again, just like I told Orlando C, is when you're looking at a used boat, the advantage is if it was something that was built cheaply, it's going to have broken already, and you're not going to find a perfect boat. Even a Cobalt is, in my opinion, one of the best built bow riders out there. A 10-year-old Cobalt, something's broke. I guarantee it. Something's broken. On a Bayliner, maybe a few more things are broken, but just decide, does it matter? Do I care that little hinge is broken? Can I fix it? Can I fix it easy? Maybe you fixed it and you made it better, which happens too. So, just go through, watch my used boat videos. If you want to check out that US Boat Expo and the First Time Boat Buyers Academy, usboatexpo.com, you can get a free 7-day pass. You'll learn a lot there. And then Skylar, that First Time Boat Buyers Academy, I think you'll find some value in there as well. But I think with what you're talking about, the brands that you're looking at, as long as you inspect them, because it's more about how well it's been maintained and how well it's been taken care of by the previous owners than it is about the brand specifically. The other thing I would mention is make sure that the engine that you get, if it's a Mercruiser or a Volvo, or if it's an outboard, whatever brand, that there's a technician in your area that can support that. I mentioned my brother bought a saltwater crown line. It had a Volvo in it. Well, he got back to Nebraska, and there are no Volvo technicians in Nebraska. He couldn't find one, so he had to go and have it serviced down at the Lake of the Ozarks in Missouri, where we had a cabin. He had to have it serviced down there because he couldn't find a local Volvo technician. So just make sure that there's somebody that can service that particular engine and drive system or outboard in your area. Okay, a couple other questions. Being from California, look at California and Seattle. There's a good price difference. Bring a boat to another state. Is the registration more? Troy, I'm not Arizona. I'm looking at, I think you're saying Arizona, Irma, in California and Seattle. I'm not sure I understand that question, Tony. Retype that question. I'll come back to you. And I'll go to Michael, but Tony Z, I'll come back to you if you retype that question so I know exactly what I'm answering. How about tips on how to convince the wife to get a bigger boat? Hey, Michael, you got to get her out. You figure out what she loves. What's the thing that she loves the most about being on the boat? And then make sure that the next several trips, that's exactly what she gets. And then throw out some, what would make this even better is if we had a boat that had boom, 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 whatever else you think that she may enjoy. In the Boat Expo, my wife was not a boater when we met. I took her, we were dating for like 6 months, and I took her to our cabin at the Lake of the Ozarks for a week. Cause she was awesome. I thought she was great, but I was like, if she can't hang on the boat for a week and love it, then we're not gonna be able to last. It's not gonna work out. Well, it turns out she loved it. But I interviewed her for the US Boat Expo for that exact thing on how to convince your spouse. Like, what are the things that were going through her mind about us, boating and that whole new world and with the kids. So that's funny. She wants a bathroom. Yeah. So you take her out for the day, and when she's got to go, you take her out when it's cold out, and when she's got to go, say, go ahead and hop down the ladder and go, and then say, oh, you know what would be great? I just saw a boat the other day that had a head on it. You could, instead of dipping in the water in the cold, you could have a head, and we could boat even more. We could stay out even longer. So. All right. Looks like Tony Z might have dropped off. I didn't get to his question quick enough. What I will say, Tony asked about registrations, not knowing exactly his situation. Most boats or most states will require you to register where the boat resides. So I live on the border of North and South Carolina. I'm actually in South Carolina. As I look out my office window right in front of me, that our backdoor neighbor is in North Carolina. So we're right on the state line. Okay, there we go. Buying a boat in Seattle, registering in California. I'm not sure whether it will be more. I know California is super expensive, Tony, on the registrations. I've actually done a video on buying a used boat in California where I talk a little bit about California taxes and stuff. What will matter is where you store the boat, where you keep the boat. So if you keep it at a marina, if you keep it in a storage lot, if you keep it on your property, if you keep it at a vacation home, what they're gonna come back ultimately and look at is where does that boat live most of its life, and that's where you should register it. That's where you should pay taxes. Find out sales tax is going to be where the boat is kept. So if you buy it in Seattle and you're going to move it to California, you should pay California taxes. Now, I think in your situation, that sucks. So, if you want to get crafty, get as crafty as you want to, but just know that the right way to do it is to register it where the boat is going to be located and stored for a majority of its life from the plan. Now, when I was selling boats, our lake that I was on was split right down the middle by the North-South Carolina state line. So it was, what's your intent when you buy the boat? If it was on a trailer, South Carolina taxes were $300 sales tax. North Carolina was $1,500 sales tax. So some of my clients would say, okay, I'm ultimately going to keep the boat in North Carolina, but I live in South Carolina, and I'm going to keep it on the trailer, pay that South Carolina tax, run it there for a couple of months, and then move it to North Carolina. That, do whatever you're comfortable with, but that's how they typically go. She wants a bathroom. Good to know. Hopefully, Tony, that answers your question. Yeah, Michael, I'm just right outside Charlotte, North Carolina. Matter of fact, Charlotte is 10 minutes in across the state line. So, not far at all. Ben, you love Bayliner. Hopefully you watched my Bayliner video. Does Bayliner suck? I think I gave it a fair assessment over the years, but I think it's a great way for people to get into a boat that fits their budget and get started with the boating. Don says, what size boat do you have? So I boat on a 25-foot Cobalt when I'm in Tennessee. My in-laws have a 25-foot R5 Cobalt that they got a couple years ago, and then a 22-foot center Tritune pontoon with the 150, which that's my boat right there. Is that for me, a freshwater boater with two young girls, a 22-foot Tritune on a freshwater lake with the 150 horsepower is probably the most value you're going to get in boating on a new boat. Now, if I was at the coast, bad idea. If I was a speed demon, not a great idea. But for me, that's it right there. I love that setup for a lot of family boaters. It's easy for the girls to ski behind. It doesn't throw a big wake. They can tube. We can load it up. You can go out for the day. You've got plenty of shade, plenty of seating. You can lounge. I love that setup. And then at the cabin in the Lake of the Ozarks, my brother's got a 36-foot, 36, yeah, 36-foot Envision, which is a bow rider with a cuddy. So it's got a mid cabin with a head and little sleeping area, a small berth. You can kind of slide in it, and the feet go up under the bow seats, and then it's got an open bow. So you walk open bow, or cockpit is all open. You walk down and under and back up into the bow. And that boat is all about speed. That boat, it wants to run 40 miles an hour. You can't just go 20 in that boat. It's either 40 or idle. It's fun to drive for a little bit, but to me, I take the pontoon any day. So hopefully that answers that. I would never own a bow rider. I've stuffed the nose of my 21 closed bow twice. Both times were under 35. Both times would have filled the boat with water. Victor, my question to you is, what were the conditions and where were you boating? If you're offshore, absolutely would never do it. If you're in the Great Lakes, yeah, maybe and you're running out and you're not just staying in the protected waters, yeah, bow rider is not the best option. If you are running on a freshwater lake or river, I think a bow rider is one of the best options, other than the pontoon. I love the pontoon as well. A quick little note. I was talking to my wife about this the other day. If you're buying a used boat around $20,000, 25,000 or under, you're probably going to get more for your money buying a used bow rider or a deck boat with a stern drive. If you're buying new, you're going to get more value buying a new pontoon. Just the way the economics work. It was based on the number of, there just weren't that many pontoons built years ago. But I'm curious, Victor, what the situation was. Yeah, under 35 miles an hour. You know, if you're taking in a 21 footer, if you're taking it over the bow, you probably should be running about 20 or less, just up on plane, depending on the situation. But yeah, I think bow riders are plenty safe if you operate them in the right waters, and you're a competent boat operator running at safe speeds. Let's see, Orlando, got my 13 Bayliner 180 last year. Yeah, best starter boat, outboard, super easy to maintain. Yeah, I agree, Orlando C. Is the Bayliner. I think every boat has its spot. I don't think there's a bad boat. I don't think there's a perfect boat either. The Bayliner, my buddy had an 03 Bayliner. It was a 17-footer with a 3.0, close to being underpowered, but he had a young family. For a family of four. Trent was, I think, 5 at the time. I can't remember what his daughter's name was, but she was 6, and it was perfect for them. He paid $3 or $4 grand for it on a trailer, ran it for 3 or 4 years. They had a great time. Unfortunately, him and his wife got divorced, and the boat got sold. But for them, for $4 grand, man, they had a couple of great summers, sold it for a couple of grand, and didn't cost them but a little bit, for some awesome memories with his family and kids. Okay, so what else we got? If I buy a pontoon, do I keep it in the water? Can I trailer it? Dennis, you can do either. Tell me, are you saltwater or freshwater? And tell me, do you live on the lake? Do you have a dock, or will you be at a marina? Tell me a little bit more about your situation, and I'll tell you some of my suggestions, some things to think about. Rod, welcome back. Boat off the trailer. That's right. Hopefully you looked up Lake Jocassee, Rod, and you new skills paying off. Hopefully you you checked out a couple of those lakes that I mentioned the other day. Okay, so Dennis, you're in freshwater. So yeah, you can absolutely leave your pontoon in the water, you know, safe location. Is it secured? Not living on the lake. So at a marina, as long as it's monitored, people aren't going to be having easy access just to jump right on and steal a stereo or something. But most marinas are pretty locked down, and I would absolutely leave a pontoon in fresh water. Couple of things to think about if you do that. One, it makes it super easy. You leave it in the water. When you're ready to go, you load up your cooler and your gear, and you head out. You come back, you tie it up, and you cover it, and you're back in the car heading home. There is a little bit of extra maintenance. So in the summertime, you're going to want to raise your lower unit out of the water, so that you don't get growth on there, but you will get growth on the pontoons themselves. So depending on how warm it gets, how much current and movement there is in the water, how shallow or how deep the water is at that spot, once a year, maybe twice a year, you're going to want to pull that and power wash the growth off the pontoons. The colder the water, the more current, the deeper the water, the less growth. The warmer the water, all of that opposite, the more growth you'll have, and it'll slow your speed down. So just pay attention to that. It's not a big deal. It's just growing on the aluminum. You power wash it off, you put some Tune Bright on it, and you're good to go. It's easiest if you start power washing it right when you pull it, when everything's still soaking wet. And you do that once or twice a year, and you're good to go. So I think it's great. You don't need to worry about the trailer. Although, as Rod would say, if you've got a trailer, now you've got the flexibility to go to other places. So if there's other lakes in the area, if there's a vacation you'd like to take, having that trailer available to you opens up more options, more exploring, different locations. So, but I would absolutely leave a pontoon in the water. It's one of the things that's great about them. One of the many things that's great about them. Okay. So Troy, my friends are split on this question. When I buy a used boat, 8 to 10,000, putting a new motor on it, or buying a 20 to 25,000, hoping everything's good and trusting. Interesting question. Let me refresh my voice here. Okay. So, 8 to 10,000, putting a new motor on it. I don't think there's a right answer to that one, Tony. It is, if you're buying a used boat, the whole, doing that inspection is pretty easy. You check and make sure there's no rot. You check to make sure the floor is solid. You check to make sure that the upholstery is in good shape and the boat is there. A majority of the value in a used boat is going to be in that motor. Whether it's I don't remember if we were talking stern drives or outboards, but either way, the majority of the value is in the motor, and that lower unit if it's a stern drive. If you're going to replace it, a couple things to think about is it's not just the cost of the motor. You've got to hang it. You have to have the shift cables and the steering cables, and you got to have the controls. When you price out a motor, make sure that you're pricing out all of those different things and the installation. If you're going to do it yourself, outboards, pretty easy. Stern drives, more complicated, and more difficult, but doable if you're mechanically inclined. Just make sure you have the full picture of it, and make sure that if you are to repower it, that you understand the weight of the motor that you're putting on and the capacity of that boat. So, couple things. If it's an outboard, and I don't remember again, 4 strokes are heavier than the old 2 strokes. So if it's rated for a 200 horse and you put a 200 and it had a 4 stroke and you put a 200 or 2 stroke and you put a 204 stroke, it's going to be a couple hundred pounds heavier potentially. Make sure that transom's going to be able to support it. There'll be the little placard on the boat that says max horsepower rating. You know, part of that is weight, part of that is torque of what the boat can actually handle, and the characteristics of the boat, what it can handle. Just make sure you don't overdo it on that. But yeah, I don't think that there's a right or a wrong answer. Just make sure you have a full financial picture to know it's not just the motor. Because if you go from, an older Mercruiser um, to a newer drive, you might have to change the controls and the shift cables and all of that. Certainly, if you go from a Yamaha to a Mercury on the outboard, you got to change out all of that. Everything's going to be different. So, all right, let's see what else. Don 81 Blue Water 45 Coastal Cruiser. Any experience with the big boat this size? No, I don't. The the best I could give you on that, Donna, maybe it's Donna Conrad, Donna and Conrad. I'm not sure, but my eyes are getting old. But watch the used boat, how to buy a used cruiser video. I go into as much detail as I know on the cruisers, which I know a decent amount about cruisers in general, but that specific model, I don't. But if you watch that video, there'll be enough insights and things to look at that you can apply that to that particular boat. But I don't have any experience with that particular boat, and to give you any specific advice. All right, Orlando, regarding heads, are porta potties a pain in the ass, or is it just easier to get a vac out system? Day cruising, ladies have a place to use the bathroom. Yeah, Orlando, here's my experience with bathrooms on a boat is you use it a couple of times and you realize it's more of a pain in the ass to clean it out and pump it out, than it is to get the ladies to go in the water. That's just my personal experience. Now, on the other hand, there are some people that use it all of the time because they would rather deal with the cleaning, than going in the lake. And that's totally fine. Whatever your situation is, if you have easy access to a pump out, I would go with a pump out. If you have those facilities on a marina or a place to deal with it. The porta potty, you're pulling that tray out and you're manually dumping it. And it's not the funnest part of boating, not the most enjoyable piece, but it's also $100, $200 porta potty that you mount in the head compartment versus a $2,500 option, probably new. That vacuum flush pump out head system, maybe even probably about 2,500 now, maybe even a little bit more, but it is easier, certainly easier to do the vacuum flush. It's just a financial weighing of it. What's more important to you? Any cleaning products you'd recommend removing marine growth on the fiberglass hull? You want to use Skylar 286. Muriatic acid but you've got to be super, super careful. This stuff is rough. But if it is bad, if the bottom of your boat is stained, it's got really bad growth, you're going to power wash it off. And then that stain, we used to do it on our boat, every year after we leave it in the water for the week of our vacation. And then we'd have to use that acid to clean it off. You've got to be careful, wear protective eyewear, goggles and gloves. It'll eat right through your clothes and your shoes. It will also damage your trailer. So if you've got a galvanized trailer or a painted trailer, you got to be real careful, because if it drips on that trailer, it's gonna leave a mark for sure. Certainly you don't want to do it on the water. That stuff you don't want to get in the water, or drip it on your lift either. But that would be the best thing. If you there's a there's a couple brand names, they're escaping me right now for some reason, but if you go to like West Marine, or Overton's or any of the online places, there's a few brands where they brand the muriatic acid, and just read all the labels, follow the instructions, test it in an inconspicuous area, and make sure that you're good to go, and then you'll be okay. Outboards, then yeah, if you're Tony Z, if you're going from Yamaha to Yamaha in that same family of engines, check with the Yamaha dealer and see if they made any changes to their controls, what you need and what you can reuse. It'll going like 50 to, I want to say 115 in Yamaha is the same family of motors, and they'll use the same controls in most situations. You go up to the 150 to the probably the 300, the same family of motors, but they'll use different controls and different cablings and things like that. And you'll just need to find what year bucket and what family of motors it's in to find out what you'll need and what you can reuse. And again, if you go to a good Yamaha technician, they'll be able to tell you that. They'll be able to look it up in the manuals and the all the Yamaha literature and figure it all out for you. Porta potty is illegal where I am. Pump out only. It sucks. Oh, you're up. Are you up in Canada? That's right, Sub God. That's interesting. I've not heard that before. Orlando, see, nobody's going in the water. So yeah, then in your case, if you're going to use that pump out a bunch, or you're going to use the head a bunch, and you have pump out facilities near you, yeah, it's going to be easier for you to do the pump out. It's other than cleaning the toilet like you would at home, just doing the scrubbing and getting the toilet bowl itself clean. You've got a nozzle. It looks like, it's on a hose, and it just comes around, and you stick the end into the thing, get good suction on it, hold it there tight, make sure your boat's tied up tight to the dock so it's not pushing away. Get good pressure down on it, that suction, and then don't pull it out until the vacuum pump out turns off. Because if you do, it's just gonna pull it all out right in your face, and everybody does it once. So I'm helping you avoid that when they first do their pump out. But keep that on it till the suction's done. Pull it out. Take the garden hose. Put a little bit of water in, maybe a gallon or so. Put a little bit of water in, and then suck it out again. And it kind of gives that black water tank a rinse, and you're in pretty good shape. You can also, there's some chemicals that you can treat it with if it's going to sit for a little bit, but try not to let it sit too long before you pump it out. Just a little bit of advice. Yeah, Lysol toilet bowl. Yeah, that toilet bowl cleaner, if you look at the ingredients, I think it's got that acid in it, one of those components. So older Ski versus newer boat. Paul Lynch, depends on what you're doing. If you are a water skier, it is tough to beat the 90s and older model ski boats. Nautique and everybody makes their hybrid boat now. But the wake is going to be way bigger if you're water skiing, if you're slalom skiing. The Mastercraft Pro Star, that bottom was flat. There we go. That bottom was flat. I went by one the other day on a trailer, and it was straight across and then a little bit up to the chine. If you go by the Mastercraft now, it's got a big, deep V because now they want as big a wake as possible. That flat bottom is going to put out the tiniest wake possible, which is what the slalom skiers and the trick skiers and the wake are the jumpers, the three sport athletes. That's what they wanted back in the day. As wakeboarding became popular and now surfing, now all the towboats have this deep V, and they're getting ballast in the boat to weigh it down to push out a bigger wake. So Paul, it's all about, if you're surfing and wakeboarding, newer. If you are slalom skiing, older. That would be my my distinction there, depending on what you want to do. All right, Travis. So prior to talking on the podcast, would a McKee Craft Carolina skiff or yeah, that's exactly the style I was thinking of. The skiffs are going to be, Travis, they're going to have a flatter bottom. So they're going to ride rougher, but they're going to be more stable as you're fishing inland. That flatter bottom is not designed to go much offshore. I think you said like a half mile offshore, which, watch the weather, calm day, know how to operate your boat safely and effectively. So don't go on day one, go out, but pay really attention to that stuff. And those are I think that would be, you're right in the right ballpark. You're right in the right ballpark, Travis. For a poop station, go in the camping areas. They sell the big bags. There you go. Troy Z, that's my kind of method right there. Like, hey, if you really got to go, we got you covered. Here's a 5-gallon bucket and a baggie to dispose of it. Number 2 will not be allowed. Yes, so that's there is that pump out for you, Orlando, I think is going to be okay. Put your rules up and let especially kids know about your number 2 rule, and some of the adults that may not have as much common sense or courtesy, and you'll be in good shape. All right, so we've been here we're getting close to an hour. I've got to wrap this up at 3:00. So I'll quick again mention the US Boat Expo, usboatexpo.com. You can get a free 7-day pass. Go check that out. It was very valuable information, and I've got my experience, I've got my opinions, and I've got my advice, but I thought it was real valuable to pull from these other experts in different areas of the industry, specifically the certified marine technicians, from saltwater environment, from freshwater environment, all over the industry. And you can check that out free. Just go to usboatexpo.com. If you are looking at buying a boat in the next 12 months or so, that First Time Boat Buyers Academy, I've tried to price it so it made it real easy. If you're looking to make a $10,000 or more investment, investing under $100 to make sure you do it the smart way, I go into a little bit more detail than I do on the channel. I try to give as much away on the channel as I can for everybody, but I've put it in a way that I try to walk you step by step through the boat buying process, so that you don't make a bad decision up front that's going to lead to problems down the road. And I'll walk you step by step through it. Probably the biggest value, outside of just the education, is step 5. I talk about negotiation. There's the magic money saving method, which people have invested up to $70 to just get that negotiation technique. And it's saved several people thousands and thousands of dollars. Zach, I think, was on here that saved $3,000 when he bought his Key West. And it's super valuable. If you're buying from a dealer, there's additional techniques for buying from a dealer, so it'll pay for itself easily, just in the negotiation step alone. Plus, you get all the other hand holding and walkthrough. There's a private Facebook group where we'll answer your questions and things like that. So you can check that out, usboatexpo.com/37. And Arizona, how are you doing? We are just wrapping up here. Hey, I want to thank everybody for being on this live. This is something I might try to do every couple of weeks. And this has been fun. As you can tell, I love talking about boats, and it's great to see. It's great to see the people that I've kind of built these relationships online, see them come out, participate. Love seeing your comments on the YouTube channels, answering questions, going back and forth, disagreeing sometimes, calling me out for being wrong. I by no means know it all when it comes to boating. But I try to share what I do know to help the folks that need that insight. And again, with the expo, because I don't know it all, try to pull in other people when I can and add some value. So thank you guys. Paul, you're very welcome. Thanks for being a part of the channel, Arizona Homestead Project. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Now I've got to go coach some 7 and 8-year-olds in soccer. So that's where I'm off to next. Thank you guys very much, and we'll see you next time.